And we are live here on AskTom Live on this Thursday, the third, I do believe, second, something like that. Anyway, we welcome everybody here on weekends. Of course, I'm on Sports Radio 610 answering your home improvement questions, and that's what I'll do here too. And we get questions from our website, but on the radio on Saturday and Sunday. In fact, this Saturday, not only am I on from 9 to noon on Sports Radio 610. For those of you in the Houston area, we'll be at the Montgomery County Outdoor Living and Home Show I'll be broadcasting live and spending the early afternoon with people out there after the show, just answering questions, saying hello to everybody. So we have a busy little weekend coming up here Saturday, and of course Sunday from 8 to 11 I'll be on the air too, answering all your home improvement questions Saturdays and Sunday. And then we have all our garden pros on Saturday morning from 7 to 9 who get up super early because that's what gardeners are supposed to do. Home improvement guys, we get to sit in a little bit, but the gardeners are there from 7 o'clock till 9 answering gardening questions from all our garden pros all over the city of Houston. We have great nurseries all over that answer your questions. Charlie,
of course, is in a call.
Do I? Let me see.
Is that important?
No, it's just my son.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. It was vibrating. Yeah, it's my son. Right. Hopefully he is not in trouble somewhere. It was my oldest boy, Jimmy.
I feel bad. I helped you lose your train of thought there. I'm sorry about that.
That's something new with me. I don't need help with that. But anyway, where are we? Oh, that's right.
You're
Charlie is in the...
What? You were pimping the show up in Conroe.
Yep, show up in Conroe. We're going to be there Saturday, and we're going to do it live. But Charlie, as you can tell, is in a high-end Ritz-Carlton somewhere on the East Coast,
I'm in a
overlooking the parking lot of the construction site that is going on outside his hotel room.
Yeah, I'm at a high-end Hampton Inn in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina today. So I've got some business here. We missed the show last week because you were
I was on deployment with the Texas State Guard, and I would have rather have been here because it is for Texas. It was super freezing in the rain, and I actually got hypothermia and had to be escorted to a warming center before they put my poncho back on and sent me back out in the rain doing land nav and triage for, we were doing a lot of medical training. So that was part of that day, but I spent 4 days in uniform with a very good group of people, Bravo Company. I'm part of that, and I really appreciate the people that I work with. But it was an interesting weekend for Texans that don't like cold weather. I was out in it.
There's a fun fact that before this show every week, we have Tom in a warming center. We warm him up prior to the show. So by the time you come here, he's at a rolling boil and ready to help you. And that's what we want to do today, by the way. We're live, and we've gone to a lot of trouble to do this. I was off at a partners, my Wizard of Ads partners. We all the 51 of us get together once a year and around the cauldron and come up with different things we want to do in the new year for advertising and stuff. And that's where I was last week. So
that's right. You were off too. It worked out well for both of us. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but I didn't want to miss 2 weeks in a row. So I carted all this stuff with me out here to this meeting I'm at in Myrtle Beach. So I figured we can at least do the show and answer some questions because we hate to miss time with you for 2 weeks in a row. So that's the point, though. I can't put up little things on the screen here because of the way this thing is set up. But remember that we're live, and if you have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the comments section underneath. And we are happy to take your questions live here. We can still do, and we're happy to do it, and want to have you be part of the show. But otherwise, what we're doing is we're going to answer questions that come to us from the Ask Tom mailbox at HomeShowRadio.com, and because we're set up here a little different, I've got to look at the questions here on my handy-dandy iPad because it doesn't work on the screen the way it's supposed to. So here we go. Tom, first question comes to us from Manny. He's in Pearland, and he wants to know, what's the best way to locate my cleanout on the outside of my home? I've been paying more attention to my home, and I don't see it. I've looked at other houses. I see them over there, but I can't find mine. Would a plumber be the best bet to find this thing? And I guess it's possible, Tom, that his house doesn't have a clean out.
Well, that's what would be my big concern is it's going to be, if you have a clean out, it's going to be somewhat close to the house. Number one. When you're locating, and it's got to be obviously in the sewer line, your main sewer line coming out from the house, if the one you're looking for is your main sewer cleanout. Sometimes if you have a sink, a kitchen sink on the outside wall, there'll be a cleanout by the kitchen sink too. Those are the two most common, and that one would be in the wall right there at your house. Very easy to spot, but I have a feeling you're talking about your main cleanout. So what you have to do is decide or find out where your main sewer line from the house, because there's going to be one line going from the house to the sewer. So your first question is the sewer in the back or in the front? So that's something you have to know about your neighborhood. Most of the time, they're in the back. Now, not all of the time. My house, it goes across the cul-de-sac, and it's in the front with all the other neighbors going down through the cul-de-sac underneath there. But for most of the time, it goes to the back. And what you do is you look at the roof, and you find out if there's any bathrooms or any major plumbing fixtures on the back wall, and look at the vent that's going through the roof. Those little PVC vents that go through the roof, we call them vent stacks. And if you see one maybe coming up from a toilet would be the biggest vent you have, and go straight down, then you start to probe in the ground until you find a sewer line if it's there. And that's usually how plumbers will start to probe with just a T-probe in the ground until they hit something. Once they hit it, then you can go up and down. It's usually in a straight line. Pipes don't do all this. It'll be in a straight line. And if you don't have one, I suggest you have one put in as close to the house as possible so it's out of the way of lawnmowers and things like that. Because you want it sticking up out of the ground a little bit, and you certainly don't want this thing sticking out of your backyard that's in, plain view of everybody. In a flower bed or something would be good. So will a plumber be able to do this easier than a person? Through my minute and a half explanation? Yes, because they do it all the time. But that's how it is done. If you just want to walk around and look at your plumbing stacks, look down. It might be just buried a little bit in the flower bed so you can push stuff around a little bit. But yes, the answer is you might not have had one put in. You should, but that doesn't mean it was put in.
Is there a reason why, when you build, it just seems common sense that your house would have one. Is there a reason why when you're building a house, you don't just put one in when you're building it, Tom?
They should all have them put in. There's no doubt about it. And the more the better as far as a lot of people are concerned. It's really just lack of attention to detail. If they had one on the truck that day, who came and hooked? You build this whole entire house, and then someone has to hook up the sewer line to it. So a whole different plumbing crew comes out. And, it could be one of these things, and I'm involved with this my whole life, where he says, oh, they didn't put a clean out in. Well, screw it. We don't have one on the truck. We don't have time. Just tie it in. I'll call the boss, or, we'll just move on. So you get this he said, she said stuff all the time. Most plumbers don't run their own sewer lines. They'll have different crews to do that. And usually it's just miscommunication, but it should be put in. A main clean out off of the house should be standard. Do they follow the codes all the time? When was the house built? In the 60s or, in 2010s? It's going to be a different period under different codes, but should every house have one? Yes. Every good plumber knows that? Yes. Every good plumber always says, I wish you had one? Yes. We have a sponsor, Abacus Plumbing, that has this deal about cleaning drain lines, and one of the things is their deal for a certain price that they lock in they cannot follow it if you don't have access to a clean out. They will certainly put one in, but it'll be an extra cost.
Right, and that's where I was going to go next, is that to get a clean out, unless you pay the plumber to go up on the roof and go through a vent sack, that's really the only way to get down there and clean out that drain.
Yeah, and it's not that difficult. You're going to have to dig a hole, you cut the pipe, you glue in a T, and then you put in a little stack with one of those little screw fittings on the top. It's just PVC and glue. So it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but you still have to pay for the time of the plumber to do it.
All right. Next question we have comes from Fulsha. That's where Jerry is. He says, my aunt is having a problem with the fireplace drawing out smoke. She's had two contractors look at it, and both said the problem, Tom, is too much insulation around the fireplace. Is that correct? They want a huge amount to remove that insulation.
I don't understand where they're going with that. If there's a problem where it won't draw, and it happens with a lot of fireplaces, especially metal flue fireplaces, the metal gets so cold that the air is dropping down the fireplace. So maybe that's what they're referring to, because sometimes when I get information on these questions, Charlie, it's not the full conversation that took place, as you might have well know. And so maybe it's keeping it really cold or something. I'm not really sure. What I used to tell my clients is if you have a metal insert fireplace and it's not drawing at the beginning and it's been really cold in the house, if you take a newspaper, which nobody has anymore, but we used to use newspapers, and you wad it up into like a long rod and you light the end and you put it up inside and heat the flue a little bit and get it warm and then light the logs, it'll start the draw. Once you start the draw, it'll work okay. So that might be what they're talking about. We're just not getting the full conversation on the question. But I will also tell you this, if you do have a fireplace problem and you don't want to go through all these little ways to make it work, like cracking a window, opening a door, sticking flame up inside the flue, it does work in a pinch, but you really want it to work properly. And I would make sure when you call someone on your fireplace, you just don't call anybody. You have to call a certified chimney sweep. Now in the Houston area, we always recommend Lord's Chimney. You'll get a straight answer and you'll get a solution because that's what these guys are certified to do. And there's a difference between guys that sell fireplaces and fireplace stores and true chimney sweeps. So make sure you're dealing with a chimney sweep in the area that you live.
Yeah, and we love Lee. He is as passionate about fireplaces as pretty much all our home show pros are, whether that's Alan at Abacus or Jim at Due West or Ideal.
Everybody, yeah.
You know, they're all those kind of people. So thank you for being with us today. We're not done. I'm just want to let you know that if you want to join us,
Man, Tom's like, a lot of work to get here, man. I don't want to just get done yet.
You cart all this crap through TSA. All right.
Hey, I've carted it before. Don't give me that. And I'm down in Brownsville right now. I got to cart this camera tomorrow on an airplane back to Houston. All right.
Well, I will tell you, we are here to take your questions. And if you go down and put something in the comment section, it'll pop up in here. It's like Chad, who works with us, he's asking, where we got the curtains. And I
already asked him that, Chad, by the way. First thing I noticed. And the brown carpet you haven't seen, but let's put it this way. You don't know if it's dirty or not because it's brown.
Right. And when I stay at a hotel like this, I always wear my socks. Enough said. All right.
Ooh,
Third question. Michael in Willis says, I've listened to you since the beginning and trust you. He says, you've talked about fresh air returns for years. And while changing filters, I noticed a piece of duct hanging down in the space where the fan is. I also noticed the end of the duct has a trash bag taped over the end. I've always had a dust problem. Is that duct most likely a fresh air return? And could that be the source of my dust issue?
It could be a source of the dust issue, but let's go the fresh air return first. I don't know, but I suspect it was, just like you do. Why somebody purposely cut that off and put a trash bag over the end doesn't make any sense. When you have a fresh air return, it's usually taken to a place where it can pull fresh air, say from mine or right underneath my ridge vents. And if you don't have a filter in the system that's going to handle it, then you end up putting a piece of filter, not a trash bag, over the end. And that way it filters out any of the big dust and debris before it gets into the system itself. So I've seen that done quite a bit, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe somebody cut it off saying it's going to make it more efficient. Now, here's where the dust problem comes. It's not because that thing's sucking in dust or sucking in dirt. What happens is if it was designed to have a secondary fresh air return, like the systems I have in my house and many of the homes I built for people, then it's designed for that extra airflow so the house stays in a decent pressurized way so it's not super negatively pressured and pulling in dirt from the outside because it's choking. The system just doesn't have enough airflow. So if a system is choking itself because it doesn't have big enough air returns, if they have loss because you have holes in the ductwork where you're losing air, that has to be replaced. There's a lot of different things that cause that static air pressure to be wrong, and that causes dust if it's from your air conditioner. That's why when you have a checkup, you should always make sure they do a static air pressure test on your system to make sure the air is flowing nice and free. You can't have too much, but you can have way too little, and dust is one of the results of having a system that's choking down. The other result is the system breaks down all the time, and I don't mean just small repairs, I mean some big ones.
I don't think people give enough credit or pay enough attention to that issue about feeding air to the system, or
That's
the
right.
fact that you lose so much in ducts generally, unless you do something like an aero seal or something to seal them. But even then, you're going to have loss coming and going from your system.
You will. And here's something else, Charlie, is if you get into the AeroSeal systems or all of this, a lot of these new things that people do, if it's not done right and it's just done to be done, that can cause problems too. So you have to deal with a company that is training their people in airflow all the time. And a lot of air conditioning companies don't go into the in-house training because most air conditioning schools, and as all of you know that know me on a regular basis, I'm in the skill training business. That's what I do. I spent all morning testing SpaceX welders and got 7 of them employment at SpaceX down in Boca Chica down here in Brownsville. That's all I do. And with the air conditioning training programs, the big flaw is no air distribution classes or design work or anything. It's learned and taught more on the job. And so when you get companies that will continue to train their technicians about this, then you can get into all the different types of systems, fresh air returns, turns, the sealing type systems Charlie just mentioned. It's done right. To just do it because you think it's going to solve the world, it's not. There's a science behind it, and a big one. Without that, the air conditioner is nothing but a whole bunch of stuff that's making noise.
See, and James is in Houston, Tom, and he writes to us. He says, I have a granite-composite undermounted kitchen sink that developed a long crack on one side that goes all the way through. So water flows out like a waterfall.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well,
No.
it's if it was software, it'd say it's an undocumented feature. But
yes.
but in his case, is there repair for this?
No. It's time for you to get a new sink. When the manufactured granite sinks came out, the man-made, I don't know how they use dust and stuff, put it all together. I always questioned whether they were going to hold up or not because people loved them. They're big, they're undermounted, they look great. They match your other stuff. They don't look granite like a slab of granite. That's not the look they have. They're usually a solid dark color. But I haven't had any calls about one breaking, but I do know that it's one of those things that it's time for it to go in the dumpster and it's time to buy a new one. If you want the same type, you can get it. If you want to change it out, you can get it. Hopefully the size is standard enough to where you'll have options.
Yeah, I'm just hoping this doesn't give my wife Sandy any ideas because she hates our kitchen sink. I can just see her in there with like a
yeah, a big one.
Whoops. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I dropped this cement block in the
That's
kitchen
right.
sink. And yeah.
Do you have one of those marble sinks in your kitchen?
No, we have.
Okay.
Yeah, our sink. It's a long story.
Okay. Well, we don't want to bring it up because Sandy's watching.
No, actually, she's got an optometrist appointment today, so I've got a free shot on goal here. So
that's it. When she gets home, the sink will look better. It won't be so blurry.
No, she wants
optometrists get it.
You talk about different kinds of sinks. She
wants the farm sink with the thing in the front.
Yeah.
We have to rebuild the cabinets for that, Charlie. I've put those in before.
Yes, we do. Yes, Jeff has already told her that.
281 kitchen. Call Trifection.
But it's as many home improvements as that she and I have been around. I looked at that situation. I thought, it's an undermount sink. Why can't we just disconnect it, take it out, and put another one in underneath it? And
you can. Quite frankly, I'm with you. I like the undermount sinks because you can wipe all your junk in it. Right. Those farmhouse sinks, I think they're horrible. I hate them. People put them in, and they always complain to me about how they hated them afterwards because they're so hard to clean and everything. So It's really up to the individual. It really is.
It's like people who have those. They think it's a great idea to have these tile countertops. Yeah. With the squares of tile, and then within months of getting it, they realize why they had a smooth surface before. Because if I could take this over to my little kitchen in my rental here, I could show you one that I'm constantly scrubbing. So I'm not real pleased with those either. No, it's not. As they say where you are, Tom, it's no bueno. So
that's right.
it's in Brownsville. All right, we got one last question for you here before we wrap things up on this special remote broadcast edition of
There you go.
Ask Tom. Let's see, yeah, because we're both remote.
I'm
Anyway,
always remote, so I'm good.
Mary in Clear Lake says we have a leak in a copper pipe running up through the slab. The plumber is recommending replacing all of it with PEX. We're also looking at epoxy lining. What are your thoughts on these options, Tom?
Well, I think if you could do the Ace Duraflow lining on, let me see, this was a copper pipe,
Copper
so
pipe,
it's
right?
gonna be a supply line under pressure. If you could do the Ace Duraflow, if the leaks aren't that bad and they can line that pipe, I would go ahead and do that for sure. Usually, when you have an underground copper pipe, it's not broken underground. It's usually broken where it comes through the concrete. It starts to get a leak because the concrete and the pipe was not separated, so the concrete will start to eat through it, the lime in it. And so what happens is you have to reroute it and bring it down a wall or something. But if they're able to line the inside, I would do that in a heartbeat before I start replumbing the whole house with PEX. Because they're going to have to come down the walls and everything anyway. They're not coming up under the slab with PEX. They're not going to retrace that. They're just going to cap that off and cut it off. So even on a repair, you just cut it off, you isolate it somewhere, drop it through the attic down the wall and bring it back to where it was. So if you have the Ace Duraflow lining option, I would do that in a heartbeat.
It's saying that because you have a leak in a pipe coming up through the slab, you should PEX the whole house. It's like saying you've got a flat tire, you need a valve job.
Yeah, no, it's there's everybody out there is going to sell repiping. Man, repiping is the big hot seller, and it's probably been going on a long time. I didn't really notice it a lot, but when I noticed it, Charlie, was the freeze last year in the Houston area, and so many of those companies came down to Houston because, and on all of Texas for that matter, all the houses that had to be fixed with all the different pipes that burst in a very hard freeze that we weren't used to. And they're here to stay. Now they have to create more work. So for marketing people, it's a challenge to keep them busy because you don't go around repiping a house 3 or 4 times in a year. You know, it's not like buying shoes.
Now,
Yeah.
there are good applications for PEX, and I know I want to
Oh
make sure
yeah.
before we move on from PEX is like TDT does both. That's why
Yeah.
there are legitimate reasons for it, but there PEX is not the same.
No, there's I think 52 manufacturers last time I looked of different types of PEX. Uponor is one I used. When I made the transition in my building company, we went to a commercial Uponor, which is a PEX product, and it was a freeze-proof pipe. It was great for what I wanted my clients to have, and it's used in new construction all the time. It is a very acceptable way to do a lot of things, including repairs. You can just do a section, and it can be. They have connections that you can connect to copper, you can connect to galvanized. You can just change sections in a house and it will last forever. You're never going to have any problems. Somebody said it will blow up like a balloon. I got that on my show one day. I'm thinking, what guy drinking beer in the back porch came up with that idea? That it doesn't happen.
But
So,
hold my beer.
what can I do to sell a whole house of plumbing? So they're trying like crazy. But what happened was the whole market got saturated with replumbing home companies. And so they are trying to stay in business. I want people to be a little beware. You don't have to. It's not the end all for everything, or the
Right.
answer for everything.
Right. Hey, just because I just want to share, I don't know if this is going to work real well here. I wish I'd had a picture to show you guys. Give this a second to come in, but this is kind of what the kind of the light's kind of shining on it here. But this is the rig
What are you?
this is the rig we're doing the whole show with today. You can see that it's got I got my camera up there on a little tripod and the laptop underneath it and the button down underneath and somehow we're making this work.
Okay.
So
And welcome to Geek Corner, where
that's
IT
Geek Corner.
rules.
Well,
Yes.
I just that's in case the IRS is watching. I really am using that Z9 for business purposes. So
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
this is
good.
the fancy new Nikon we're using for the return video here. So anyway, so
Well,
you're
you wouldn't know it by looking at your picture. It's
well
kind of
actually
yellowy with
well let
it's
me
very
well
soft. It's very soft
temperature
in
of the
there
room
and
doing the best I can, but
temperature
the
of the room.
well no it's the light temperature in the room. They've got
I
these
understand.
warm
it's very
lights, but
yellow.
kind of a
Yes.
pain in the neck. But
Looks like you're hiding from the law somewhere.
Right. No.
Trying to talk to your mother.
Whenever I travel on these trips, I always bring my camera because I'm going to tomorrow morning I'll get up and get some sunrise shots on the beach and stuff like that before I go to my business meeting. But it's now I brought it because I needed it to do the show. So that's the deal. So if anyone's curious, that's what it takes to do this thing. Anyway, I know that this weekend, it's a special weekend for you. You're going to be on the road, and you talked about the show at the very beginning, but you missed an important component of that show.
Oh, please. Tell me.
Laundry, that was it, the laundry god or something about laundry. He's got to teach you how to do laundry the right way or something this weekend. That's part of the show. And
that's a real enticement. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
And I'll be there too. I don't know.
Yeah. So bring your dirty socks to the Montgomery County
laundry show.
Okay. Yeah, and they're gonna help you with that. So, but anyway, that's for what that's worth. Tom will be there at the Montgomery County Convention Center. Just checking here. Okay, making sure we're still on. Anyway, he'll be on to there live Saturday doing a show 9 to noon, and of course you're on every Saturday on the radio.
On Sports Radio 610 in Houston, Texas, you can catch me Saturdays from 9 to 12 and Sundays from 8 to 11. Not a problem. Remember, we talk about all these different people in the Houston area that work on people's homes, our certified home show pros. Make sure you visit our HomeShowRadio.com website and always use those. And then on Saturday before me are the garden pros, and they will answer all your gardening questions. And it is gardening season. There's no doubt about it. This is a time of year people are going bananas over gardening, and so you can do that too and listen to them if that's an interest. It is of mine, and I listen, and you should too.
Chad has just written in here. I'm going to read this down here. Lone Star Convention Center on Airport Road. So.
Okay. Lone Star Convention Center. I've been there. It's a nice place. It's easy. Once you get up there, it seems like the middle of nowhere. For those in the Houston area, it's north of Conroe. So if it's in your neighborhood, it's easy to get to. Charlie, not far from where you might be living someday from Willis. Is it Willis, Texas?
New Waverly.
No, New Waverly. That's right, just past Willis. And it's really easy to get in and out in that. So, it's not like fighting downtown traffic or something. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. The directions are: you get off I-45 and turn right. You go till you're lost. Turn left.
There it is.
Then you go till you think you need help, and the place will be on your left. So it's easy to find.
Yeah, but all the places that you just talked about, people live out there. So come on, Cindy.
No. I'm not speaking pejoratively of that area. I'm just saying it ain't downtown. So
it's all everybody's on acreage. How many acres you have? 3. See, and that's tiny. He's like in the urban area. He's got 3 acres.
Yes, but the fence on my back property says National Forest, so that's
so then 1 million. That's great.
That's it. I thought it was a great idea till the other day. Sandy says, "Hey, there's a fire in the National Forest." I went, I hadn't thought of that.
And then, hey, glad we didn't build yet. Yes. I in the Texas State Guard, we train to help people during the wildfire season. So, Charlie, we might be up there rescuing you.
We were thinking floods, and we hadn't thought about fire. All right.
Yeah, there's fires.
Right. Well, listen, go see Tom this weekend. He'd love to see you. Bring your dirty socks, and they'll wash them for free. Don't do that.
No.
All right. And we will be back live in our normal setting next Thursday for another Ask Tom.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio. Home Show